Welcome to the Valareso Capital community, where we discuss the stock market and trading strategies to become a consistently profitable trader and investor. Hey traders, welcome back to Valareso Capital. On today's video, we're going to go through the weekly watch list and we're also going to take a look at the market update. We have some amazing moves in the market, and I think this is the beginning of probably the end month rally that we have been talking about for a couple of weeks. And we have made some really nice hypotheses that actually came through in the market last week. So we're gonna start with the chart of the VIX. You know, guys, that we have been talking about this chart, and let me just make myself a little bit smaller here. You know, guys, that we have been talking about this chart of the VIX for a couple of days, and we mentioned it last week. And you can see right here that we were talking about this divergence that we were seeing on the VIX, not expecting a huge short covering rally that the one that we saw last week, but we were talking about that 4,225 level to that 4,050 level, and we actually came a lot higher than that, almost 100 points higher than that. And we're going to take a look at that chart, but wow, this make me realize how important it is to always look for those divergences in the VIX. We saw the divergence in the VIX, and of course in the leverage ETFs, the UVXY for the VIX as well. We saw those divergences, and now we can see that this is playing out. So remember guys, that the purpose of these videos is just to make a roadmap for next week. Of course, we don't know what is going to happen later in probably in the next couple of months or whatever, and we don't need to know that, right? We just need to create a high probability hypothesis of what could happen next week. That way we can position ourselves in the best case scenario for that thing happening. So remember guys, that this video is for informational purposes only, is based just on my personal opinion and is not financial advice. And remember guys, that if at any point of this video you find any value on the information, remember to subscribe to the channel. That will help the channel reach more people. That way more people can find this information and use it for their trading. So now the question is, what is going to happen with the VIX right now? First of all, you can see that the VIX is starting to reach those oversold levels using my indicator right here, and most importantly, just using the regular levels that we tend to look for at the VIX. You can see right here that we are at support somewhere around that 15 level. So any rally in the VIX, I think that is going to be met with resistance, which will be really bullish for the S&P 500. So what is the expectation with the VIX? I think that this 17 level right here is probably going to be a pretty strong level of resistance. So probably the VIX is going to do something like this, and then will continue its path to that 13 level that we saw last time. You can see that that level is a huge level of support, but I think that the VIX wants to test that level down below. So that is actually looking pretty bullish for the market. And now let's jump into the SPX, and I want to take a look at the ES futures because I think that they are telling the story super well as well with the S&P 500 here. So sometimes you can see some levels in the SPX. Well, we're going to take a look at that. We're going to take a look at the SPX, and then we're going to take a look at the ES. That way you can understand what I'm trying to say here. So let's start here with the SPX. Remember guys, that we were talking about this 4,100 level as a possible level of support. You can see that we had our oversold signal right here, and I'm going to start paying more attention to this signal because it's actually pretty strong, right? And you can see that we had this massive short covering rally. We were talking about this level of acting as potential resistance. Remember that this was the 4,250 level that we were talking, but of course we happened to came way above that level, which was actually pretty amazing and pretty crazy. But now we're starting to come into this very important level of resistance. And now the question is, what is going to happen right here, right? If we just think in probabilities, right, I do think that the market is eventually going to go to 4,500 and above that. I do think that we're going to make new highs, talking about this 52-week high that we had right here. I do think that we're going to go higher, but now the question is, what is going to be the path? And now, after a 7% rally from from the level that we had at 4,100, the probability that we're just gonna continue to go to the upside is really low. Could it happen? Of course, the market is full with surprises, but I think that if we are patient and we happen to see a pullback into this 4,280, 4,300 level, I think that's going to be just an absolute fantastic level to grab some exposure and then continue to play this to the upside, because I really, for my style, I don't feel comfortable just buying the S&P right at resistance. Now let's jump into the futures chart, because you can see it right here in the futures chart that we are stalling, meaning that we are pausing right here at this 50 daily moving average. So just a little bit of difference, right, with a couple of points with the SPX, but I think that it's really important to see that we had a massive move right here in the ES mini futures, and now we're coming into that declining 50 daily moving average, and of course you can see that we're pretty overbought. Some amazing signals, right, that I'm starting to learn about my own indicator, right? You can see these divergences here, and both divergences, they played out amazingly to the upside. So I'm going to start to pay more attention to that. That's actually something pretty exciting. So that's basically going to be it for the markets. I think that the market is pretty bullish. And if you want to take a look at the TLT, right, a lot of people, a lot of participants are talking about the bond market. And the bond market is changing the structure right here, which is actually pretty bullish for the stocks. And remember, guys, that the bonds market, they don't need to rally for the stock market to rally. They just need to hold a level, right? If the bond market here, the TLT, just trades around this level, that's enough for the market to continue higher, right? As long as we just don't break this level and continue to the downside, then even if the bond market just moves sideways, that's going to be great for the stocks. That's in my opinion what usually happens. So don't expect a 100 correlation between the TLT and the SPX. That's usually not what happens. And then of course we can jump into the UUP for some people that are watching the dollar. You can see right here that this is beautiful about my indicator. I just love it, and I have to, and this is a note for myself, I just have to be able to trust my indicator a little bit more and to be able to capitalize on those moves. You can see right here that we were actually making a higher high in the UUP, but my indicator was screaming lower lows, and you can see right here that the moving average of my indicator was acting as resistance. And then of course you can see right here that the UUP just came to the downside, and now we're finding a little bit of support right at that 50 daily moving average. I do think that the UUP is important. Of course, we have been talking about the dollar for a while, but I wouldn't panic about it as long as we don't continue to the upside. I really don't care what the UUP does. As long as we don't continue to explode to the upside, I think that the SPX is in a really good position to start rallying and meet those upward targets that we were talking about. Some other index that a lot of people were talking about is the IWM. With the move that we saw right here in the IWM, I do think that a lot of the structure has been corrected for the bulls. You can see right here that 21 exponential moving average wave was acting as resistance. Now we had this huge move to the upside, and we have all these gaps below it, which signals that we have a lot of strength. But of course, we're coming into a little bit of a resistance level. That's going to be the first keys of that 50 daily moving average. So any back and filling somewhere around here to build some sort of flag, I think that's going to be pretty amazing for the IWM, and that will also provide us with many opportunities to start building a lot of exposure. So this one is also looking pretty cool. So now that we cover the market, in summary, I think that the market is going to go higher, but I do think that we're going to see a little bit of a pullback, perhaps a little bit of rest, some back and filling, and then we will continue to go to the upside. And something that I also want to show you guys is right here. If we just come to the oscillators, right? This is basically the NAMO and the NEMO, just looking for overbought levels in the Nasdaq composite and overbought levels in the NYC composite. You can see that right here, and let me make this a little bit bigger, that way we can compare it to the past. You can see that these levels of overbought levels, we haven't seen these levels in a while, right? The last time that we saw it, so we saw it right here in the NYC composite. These levels tend to be really strong, right? Once we reach those levels, it's pretty bullish, but we tend to see a little bit of pullback, a little bit of profit taking, and then we can continue to the upside. So that's actually pretty strong. And of course, if you watch the summation indexes, you can see that we have a positive cross in the Nasdaq composite. We also have a positive cross in the NYC composite. So that's actually pretty bullish. The market is looking absolutely bullish. There is no question about it. We just want to be really careful and choose our entry points very carefully, because that's the most important thing. So let's jump. I do have a couple of bearish setups. I don't think that they're gonna last for long, but I'm just gonna share two setups with you. The first one is gonna be Tesla, and then I'm gonna share Google. And this is one that I shorted on Friday, right? You can see right here that we rally into that declining 21 exponential moving average wave, and also into this anchor VWAP zone, resistance zone, right, coming all the way from this swing high that we had. So I'm just expecting a little bit of pullback, right? I shorted somewhere around 225.50. I have my stop somewhere around above this gap. So if we happen to pull back into this level here, that's going to be a nice swing trade. That's the only thing that I'm looking on in Tesla. But of course, my expectation is that then Tesla is going to build here and then perhaps explode to the upside. But for now, I think that we're probably just going to pull back just a little bit. Then Google is another one that I do think, if we happen to gap up on Monday and if we happen to come into this level of resistance, then perhaps we're gonna move to the downside, come back, meet this anchor VWAP from below, and then that level is gonna act as a little bit of support, and that will be the target for Google. Let's jump into the next potential setups. These are going to be bullish setups, and these are the ones that I want to focus on if we happen to see a pullback in the market. These setups are looking pretty amazing. I have a couple. The most important thing here is to focus on the best ones that you find, and most importantly in the ones that you feel the most comfortable actually building some big size. Because remember, guys, that if we happen to see a rally and you don't have enough exposure, then what's the point, right? The point is that if you happen to find a high probability setup, you want to build some size, and that's really important. And I have found that the most comfortable I feel super comfortable building exposure when I'm trading high liquid names, and that tends to be somewhere around over $500 million in a 50-day basis of average, right? So I'm looking that in the last 50 days, then the market has somewhere around $500 million of average volume trading. So those are basically the names that I trade the best, and those are the ones that I have here. So you can take a screenshot of this. These names are looking fantastic, but for the purposes of this video, I'm gonna cover CRWD. Looks awesome. I'm gonna cover Meta, and then I'm gonna cover NVDA and the QQQ. So I'm gonna cover those four. So let's start here with CRWD. This one is looking amazing. This one is looking fantastic. I'm really excited about this one, to be honest. I'm really excited about the market overall next week. So first of all, here with CRWD, we have a squeeze. We have a positive momentum in my indicator. And now the question is, where do we buy it, right? If we happen to see any pullback into that 21 exponential, that's going to be the place. If we don't see it, then we don't see it. But if we happen to see any pullback, you can see right here that I have an alert. If we happen to see any pullback, and a lot of people is like, oh no, we're not going to see it. Most of the time we do, right? If we happen to see two candles to the downside, two small candles to the downside, and this 21 exponential catching up with price, I'm looking to build a big size position in CRWD. This one is looking awesome. So that's going to be the first setup, keeping it pretty simple. Then the next one is going to be Meta. What I love about Meta is that we have been holding this level for a while now. Some big player is buying this level here and is giving us some really nice opportunities to build exposure around this 21 exponential moving average wave, and then catching these pops to the upside. So for Meta, I'm looking for a little bit of a pullback here. If we happen to have a couple of candles that come right here and test this rising anchor VWAP zone and this 50 daily moving average, that's going to be the zone. Looking for a target right here, and then perhaps a continuation to the upside. I'm also looking to build a big position right here in Meta. Then let's take a look at NVDA, and then finally the Qs. NVIDIA is awesome. I love NVIDIA. I really wish that I play it though. NVIDIA made this divergence. I mentioned this divergence on my Twitter feed, but I didn't act on it. So that's something that I have to correct. The more and more I see these divergences, the more I want to act on them. So next time I'm going to be really looking forward to execute on those trades. But overall in NVIDIA, I'm looking for the same thing. I'm looking for something like this, right? You can see right here that the last time that we came, we reclaimed the wave, we pull back, and then we continue to the upside. So now I'm looking for the same thing. We came, we reclaimed that 21 exponential moving average, and now I'm just looking for a pullback. If we happen to come and test this gap support area, then I'm gonna be looking to build a big position and then trading it all the way to earnings. So that one is looking also amazing. And then of course the Qs are looking fantastic. If I always like to play things with an index, and the QQQs are just looking fantastic. So if we happen as well, you can see right here that we are at a level of resistance. We had an amazing rally. And now the question is, if we just happen to have a 2-day pullback, and if we happen to come into this 21 exponential moving average, then I'm going to be looking for a target somewhere around 380. And that is going to be an amazing trade, especially if you trade it. You can trade it with options, or you can trade it with the 3 leverage ETF. I like using the TQQQ. That way you can really capitalize on a move to the upside in the QQQ. So that's basically gonna be it for the video, guys. You can check the other setups on your own, but overall I'm really excited about the market. I just want to be patient and wait for the setups to come to me and then execute on those. So that's gonna be it for the video, guys. I hope that you have an amazing weekend, and I will see you on future videos. Take care and bye bye.